Hello friends, today's topic is amounts not deductible, which is section 40. In this we will be studying what are the expenditure incurred by the SSC which won't be allowed to the SSC, wherein taxes are not deducted, then expenditure will be not allowed as deduction to the SSC. Deduction of income taxes paid won't be allowed as deduction. Any expenditure, for example, remuneration paid to the partner, interest paid to the partner, if it is excessive, it won't be allowed as deduction to the SSC, and so on and so forth. Friends, first part of section 40A is 40A1, wherein any expenditure, any payment made by an SSC outside India or to a non-resident or to a foreign company. Any payment made outside India by the SSC by any person, any payment made outside India or to a non-resident or to a foreign company wherein taxes has not been deducted or not paid to the government of India, then such payment won't be allowed as deduction to the SSC. The important part over here is the payment, the taxes should be deducted as well as paid. There will be scenarios wherein taxes have been deducted but not paid to the government of India, then also expenditure won't be allowed as deduction. Also, if taxes are not deducted at all, then also expenditure won't be allowed to the SSC. If taxes have been deducted in the relevant previous year and paid in the succeeding previous year, then deduction will be allowed. Deduction of expenditure will be allowed to the SSC in the year in which taxes are paid. And if, meaning there is a correction over here, wherein if taxes are deducted in the, I will repeat it again, if taxes are deducted in the previous year and paid in the succeeding previous year but before the due date of filing return of income, then in such cases expenditure deduction will be allowed in the relevant previous year. However, if taxes are deducted in the succeeding previous year and payment is made in the succeeding previous year, then expenditure deduction will be allowed in succeeding previous year only. So the important part over here is that taxes should be deducted. When are the taxes are deducted? If taxes is deducted in the relevant previous year and payment is made before filing return of income, then expenditure will be allowed in the relevant previous year. Else, if taxes are deducted in the succeeding previous year and even taxes are paid in the succeeding previous year, maybe before filing of return of income or not, then expenditure deduction will be allowed in the succeeding previous year only. Also, if the payee, that means the non-resident or the foreign company or any person outside India, if the payee while filing his return of income himself deducts and pays the tax, that is, taxes are paid as self-assessment tax by the payee, then the amount will be deemed to be deducted and paid by the payer. That means if the payer fails to deduct tax and pay to the government of India, and if the payee is compliant and payee, that is the non-resident or foreign company or any person outside India, he is tax compliant by way of filing his return, by way of paying taxes as self-assessment tax to the government of India, then payer will get a benefit wherein taxes will be assumed to be deducted and paid by the payer, and accordingly expenditure will be allowed as deduction to the SSC. So there is a benefit available to the payer where payee is tax compliant. So friends, on your screen, amounts not deductible, section 40A, small a, amounts not deductible, section 40A, you can also say inadmissible deductions, notwithstanding anything to the contrary. So it starts with non-obstant clause, notwithstanding anything contained in contrary in sections 30 to 38. So 30 to 38 we have studied that the SSC gets deduction of expenses incurred. It contains specific deductions from 30 to 36 and general deduction under section 37. So SSC is getting deductions under section 30 to 38 and under section 40. This expenditure may be disallowed to the SSC if certain conditions are not satisfied by the SSC. So notwithstanding anything to the contrary in sections 30 to 38, the following amounts shall not be deducted. The following amounts shall not be deducted in computing the income from business or profession. First, in the case of any SSC, this word is important. In the case of any SSC, the following expenses are not deductible. Section 40A1. In the case of any SSC, clause 1, any interest not being interest on a loan issued for public subscription before the first day of 1st of April 1938, royalty, fees for technical services, or any other sum chargeable under this act, which is payable outside India or in India to a non-resident, not being a company, or to a foreign company. So first, specific payment has been mentioned and thereafter any other sum chargeable to tax, meaning interest, royalty, fees for technical services have been specifically mentioned, or any other sum chargeable under this act on which taxes are payable. So any expenditure, any payment on which taxes are deductible and payable to the government. If taxes are not deducted, then such expenditure won't be allowed as deduction to the SSC, and it is payable outside India, and if it is in India, it is payable to non-resident or to a foreign company. Even this word is important. Any other sum chargeable under this act on which tax is deductible at source under chapter 17B, and such tax has not been deducted or after deduction has not been paid on or before the due date specified in subsection 1, section 139. So several elements: taxes were deductible, are not deducted, or if deducted are not paid by the SSC before filing of return of income. So as we have discussed earlier, taxes should be deducted and paid for eligibility for deduction. If taxes are not deducted but paid before filing of return of income, then expenses will be allowed. However, if tax is deducted and the same is paid after filing of return of income, then it will be allowed in the subsequent assessment year, in the year in which it has been paid. and if at all it hasn't been deducted, then no deduction of expenditure will be allowed to the SSC. Proviso that where in respect of any such sum, tax has been deducted in any subsequent year. So here you can see taxes have been deducted in the subsequent year or has been deducted during the previous year but paid after the due date. So second situation specified in section 139, such sum shall be allowed as a deduction in computing the income of the previous year in which such taxes have been paid. So by this way of proviso, by this provision, the legislation is trying to say if taxes have been deducted and paid, so it will be allowed in the year in which taxes have been deducted. And previously the situation was taxes has not been deducted, okay, so it won't be allowed, or after deduction has not been paid, has been paid on or before the due date, has not been paid on or before the due date, then deduction won't be allowed, and as per proviso it will be allowed in the year of deduction of tax. Now this proviso following the second proviso, the second proviso is related to the SSC, is related to the tax compliance of the payee, which we have discussed earlier. So provided further that where an SSC fails to deduct the whole or any part of the tax in accordance with the provisions of chapter 17b, which is TDS provisions, on any such sum but is not deemed to be an SSC in default under the first proviso to subsection 1 of section 201, which is related to if TDS provisions are not satisfied by the SSC, then he will be deemed to be an SSC in default and accordingly he will be liable to interest. So if the SSC fails to deduct the whole or part of any tax, so what will be the situation? Then for the purpose of this subclause, it shall be deemed that the SSC has not deducted and paid the tax on such sum on the date of furnishing of return of income referred to in the said proviso, meaning he will be liable to interest. The SSC, the SSC payer will be liable to interest if taxes are not deducted or paid, provided the payee has furnished his return of income under section 139. Payee has taken into account such sum for computing income in such return of income. Payee has paid the tax due on the income declared by him in such return of income and the payee furnishes. So till here the payee has filed his return of income, has included income in his return of income, has paid taxes payable through self-assessment tax. So here till here the payee is tax compliant. Now what the payer has to do is, after payee has submitted his return of income or after payee has paid all the relevant taxes, the payer furnishes a certificate to this effect from an accountant in such form as may be prescribed. It would be deemed and the payer will have to furnish a certificate. If above conditions are satisfied, then it would be deemed that the SSC has deducted and paid the tax on such sum on the date on which return of income has been furnished by the payee. So on the date on which return of income has been furnished by the payee, this word is also important, wherein it will be assumed on the date on which return of income has been filed, meaning the SSC will be allowed, the SSC payer will be allowed deduction. SSC payer will be allowed the deduction of expenditure paid in the subsequent assessment year. Practically, if you see, taxes should be deducted and paid, and in this case, the payee will file the return of income only in the relevant assessment year that is in the subsequent previous year. So practically, if you see, the payment will be allowed, the expenditure will be allowed as deduction to the SSC payer only in the subsequent previous year in which taxes have been deducted, in which taxes has been assumed to be deducted and paid. So for the SSC payer, it's like the expenditure won't be allowed in the relevant previous year only because taxes hasn't been deducted. Taxes won't be assumed to be deducted in the relevant previous year. It will be assumed to be deducted only only on the date on which return of income is filed by the SSC, and that will be succeeding previous year. So such expenditure will be allowed as deduction in the subsequent year in which the return of income is furnished by the payee, since tax is deemed to have been deducted and paid by the payer in that year. So friends, the crux of the situation is, the crux of the provision is, taxes should be deducted and paid. If taxes is deducted and paid before the filing of return of income, then expenditure deduction will be allowed. If taxes are deducted but paid by the SSC payer after the due date of filing of return of income of the SSC payer, I am talking, after the filing of return of income of the SSC payer, then deduction will be allowed in the subsequent previous year. And if taxes are not deducted, neither paid, then no expenditure deduction will be allowed to the SSC. So the situation can be covered over here as mentioned below, wherein expenditure allowed if taxes deducted and paid. It will be allowed if deducted in previous year and paid before due date of filing of return of income of the SSC payer, then allowed in relevant previous year itself, then allowed in the succeeding previous year if it has been deducted in previous year and paid after due date. So when it is deducted is very important for the SSC, and as per proviso it will be allowed in the succeeding previous year to the SSC wherein payee has paid taxes, wherein the payee is tax compliant only because it will be assumed that taxes are deducted and paid only on the date of furnishing of return of income by the payee. So this will be the four situation, just to clarify the points that we have discussed in this provisions. So 40A1 is applicable wherein the payment has been made outside India, wherein the payment has been made to non-resident or foreign company. There was a clarification issued by CBDT in 2015 wherein the term other sum chargeable under the provisions of the Act has been clarified, wherein if any portion of the payment, if any expenditure is partly taxable and partly exempt in the hands of the non-resident, then what should be the situation? So in this case, it has been clarified by CBDT that only the portion which is chargeable to tax, only on that portion taxes are supposed to be deducted and paid by the SSC, and accordingly provisions of section 40A1, if taxes are not deducted and paid by the SSC, then Section 40A1 will be applicable only to that portion on which taxes are actually payable, on which any other sum is chargeable to tax, on which basically taxes are ideally payable only on that portion. Section 40A1 will be applicable. On your screen, the interpretation of the term other sum chargeable in section 195. Section 195 is nothing but TDS provisions applicable to the SSC where payment has been made to any person outside India. And there also it has been clarified that the sum should be chargeable to tax only if the amount is subject to tax in India. Only thereafter taxes are liable to be deducted. Only thereafter TDS provisions will apply. So interpretation of the term other sum chargeable has been clarified in the circular, that is whether the term refers to the whole sum being remitted or only the portion representing the sum chargeable to income tax under the act. So what has been clarified is whether entire amount is subject to tax or only the portion of the expenditure which is taxable on only on that amount, only on that expenditure the provisions will be applicable. Provisions of deduction of tax will be applicable. So by this instruction, the CBDT has clarified the assessing officer shall determine the appropriate portion of the sum chargeable to tax as mentioned in section 195(1) to ascertain the tax liability on which deductor shall be deemed to be an assessee in default under section 201 in cases where no application is filed by the deductor for determining the sum so chargeable under section 195(2). So I will discuss what is relevant for section 40A1, meaning the assessing officer has to determine, the assessing officer shall determine the appropriate portion of the sum chargeable to tax. Only that portion, only on that portion 40A1 will be ideally applicable. In this circular, the CBDT, this circular if you see is relevant for section 195. However, it can be linked to 40A1 wherein if that portion which is chargeable to tax, if taxes are not deducted thereon, then 40A1 will be applicable. Accordingly, this circular, though section 195 has been mentioned, it will have repercussions for 40A1 as well. The CBDT has, in exercise of its power under section 119, clarified that for the purpose of making disallowance of other sum chargeable under section 40A1, the appropriate portion of the sum which is chargeable to tax shall form basis of disallowance. Further, the appropriate portion shall be same as determined by the AO having jurisdiction for the purpose of 195(1). Also, where the determination of other sum chargeable has been made under subsection 237 of 195, such a determination will form the basis of disallowance, if any, under section 40A1 as well. So basically, out of 100 rupees which is expenditure incurred, 60 rupees is the portion on which taxes are liable to be deducted. So the expenditure which will be disallowed in the hands of the SSC will be only 60%, will be only 60 rupees. And if taxes are deducted thereon, then it will be allowed entirely as deduction to the SSC. So this was a clarification issue which is related to section 40A1. Now friends, the next part wherein here the expenditure will be paid to a resident payee which is covered under section 40A2, wherein any expenditure paid to a resident payee and taxes are not deducted and paid by the SSC payer, then in such case 30% of the expenditure will be disallowed in the hands of the SSC payer, and the conditions of taxes deducted and paid remains the same as 40A1, which is applicable to non-resident payee. So here the conditions are: the expenditure is paid to resident payee, taxes are not deducted and paid, then expenditure won't be allowed as deduction. Second, if taxes are deducted but paid after the due date of filing of return of income, then no deduction allowed. It will be allowed in the succeeding previous year. If taxes are deducted and paid before the filing of return of income, then SSC payer will be allowed deduction of the entire amount in the relevant previous year. And here the disallowed deduction, the disallowed expenditure will be 30% and not 100% as compared to 40A1, which is applicable to non-resident. And conditions, the proviso which is related to the payee tax compliant, wherein the payee is filing his return of income, the payee is paying relevant taxes, then it will be assumed that the SSC payer has deducted and paid taxes. The SSC payer has deducted and paid taxes on the date of filing of return of income by the payee. So that provisions also remains the same as 40A1. On your screen, payment to resident payee, 40A2, 30% of any sum payable. So it is 30% of any sum payable to a resident on which tax is deductible at source under chapter 17B, and such tax has not been deducted or after deduction has been paid on or before the due date specified in subsection 1, 139, has not been paid on or before the due date of filing of return of income. So if these conditions are satisfied, then amount of deduction is 30%, provided that where in respect of any such sum tax has been deducted in any subsequent year, deduction is in the subsequent year or has been deducted during the previous year but paid after the due date, then 30% of such sum shall be allowed as deduction in computing the income of the previous year in which taxes has been paid. So here what will happen is, if taxes are deducted in the subsequent year or taxes deducted in the relevant previous year but paid after the due date of filing of return of income, then 70% will be allowed in the relevant previous year and remaining 30% will be allowed in the subsequent previous year. This is what this provision is also trying to say, wherein, just read the highlighted portion again, has not been deducted, has been deducted in the subsequent year or has been deducted in the relevant previous year but after filing of return of income the taxes are paid, then 30% of such sum shall be allowed as deduction in computing the income of the previous year in which taxes has been paid. So 30% will be allowed in the subsequent previous year and 70% will be allowed in the relevant previous year. So this proviso, friends, says about the tax compliant of the pay, wherein taxes shall be deemed that the SSC has deducted and paid. It will be deemed that taxes are deducted and paid by the SSC payer only on the date of furnishing of return of income by the pay. So these provisions which is mentioned over here as note will also be applicable to 40A2 provisions, wherein the payment has been made to a resident payee. So the payee should furnish his return of income. He should have deducted and paid the applicable taxes thereon through self-assessment tax, and if yes, then payer is also required to furnish a certificate. These conditions are satisfied. Only after that the SSC payer will not be in default, and accordingly he will be allowed deduction under section 32, 37, and there will be no disallowance as per section 40A1 or 40A2. So these provisions of PE tax complaint are also applicable to 40A2. Then a clarification it was issued by CBDT in 2013, which is relevant for the issue is here. The issue is whether the taxes payable, whether the word payable is applicable to cases where the SSC is following a cash system of accounting. So here the issue is the SSC payer has paid the expenditure, paid the amount in the relevant previous year, and the amount was paid in advance by the SSC payer, and it was payable or it was due for payable only in the subsequent year. So in financial year 1920, SSC has paid the expenditure in advance, and it is only payable in the subsequent previous year, that is in 2021. Then in such a scenario, there is a school of thought or there is an ambiguity that section 40A2 won't be applicable, as it starts with word payable, as it mentions that only if the amount is payable to the resident, it is mentioned over here, only if the amount is payable to a resident, then only the provisions of section 40A2 will be applicable. So again, the facts of the case, SSC is following a cash system of accounting wherein he has paid the amount in advance and no taxes are deducted and paid, and the amount is only due for payable only in the subsequent previous year. So in such a case, the SSC has claimed, and also there are various high court judgments on it wherein it has been approved that in such a scenario 40A2 is not applicable, meaning even if taxes are not deducted and paid by the SSC payer, even if the taxes are not deducted and paid by the SSC payer, then the amount won't be disallowed in the hands of the SSC. And the basic provision of TDS says that amount is required to be deducted. The tax is required to be deducted on the amount payable or paid basis, whichever is earlier. If the amount is payable or paid, whichever is earlier, the taxes are required to be deducted. This is the basic provision of TDS. However, only because there were certain High Court judgments which supported the view that if the amount is paid in advance, it will be no more payable, and accordingly 40A2, 40A1A, the provisions are 40A1A, the provisions that we have discussed over here should be 40A1A. So the provisions which have been mentioned in the heading as payment to resident payee as 40A2, this is not 40A2, this is 40A1A. So coming back to this circular, so only because the High Court judgments have mentioned that the amount which has been paid in advance, no TDS provisions will be applicable, no disallowance provisions under section 40A1A will be applicable to the SSC. That's why CBDT has clarified that section 40A1A will continue to apply, meaning section 40A1A will apply in such a scenario wherein the SEC has paid the amount in advance and it is payable only in the succeeding previous year, the expenditure will be disallowed in the hands of the SSC payer, and the provisions of section 40A1A will continue to apply. And this circular was issued only after there was a Supreme Court ruling in this behalf that this circular has been issued. And this circular has also mentioned that this provision won't be applicable in the situation where the High Court has held that section 40A1A is not applicable in such a situation. So, in a nutshell, High Court decision says there are few High Court decisions which says that 40A1A should not be applied in a case where SSC has made an advance payment and is following a cash system of accounting. Thereafter, a circular was issued by CBDT, wherein CBDT clearly stated that section 40A1A will apply because TDS provisions is applicable where amount is paid or payable, whichever is earlier. Accordingly, 40A1A will continue to apply, and thereafter there is a Supreme Court ruling which supports the view of CBDT. And on this particular issue, there are favorable High Court opinion as well as unfavorable High Court opinions. So, taking favorable High Court opinion as base and taking the base as CBDT circular, Supreme Court has held that 40A1A will apply where the amount is paid in advance by the SSC, meaning provisions of section 40A1A will apply whether amount is payable or paid. On your screen, disallowance of any sum paid to a resident at any time during the previous year without deduction of tax under section 40A1A. There has been conflicting interpretation by judicial authorities regarding the applicability of provisions of 40A1A with regard to the amount not deductible in computing the income chargeable under the head profit and gains. Some court rulings have held that the provisions of disallowance under section 40A1A apply only to the amount which remained payable at the end of the relevant financial year. So, provisions of section 40A1A apply only to the amount which remained payable at the end of the relevant previous year and would not be invoked to disallow amount which has been actually paid during the previous year without deduction of tax. So, amount is paid in advance by the SSC, which is due for payable only in the succeeding previous year and taxes are not deducted. So, there is a school of thought, or you can say there is a court ruling wherein section 40A1A will not be applicable in such a scenario. The CBDT's view is that the provisions of section 40A1A would cover not only the amounts which are payable on 31st of March, but also amounts which are payable at any time during the year. The statutory provisions are amply clear, meaning the TDS provisions, and in the context of section 40A1A, the term payable would include amounts which are already paid during the previous year. So this word is important, wherein the basic TDS provisions of payable or paid, whichever is earlier, has been mentioned, and section 40A1A will continue to apply. Section 40A1A will apply not only on payable cases but also on paid cases, advance payment cases. Also, the CBDT has went on to say that has clarified further that where any High Court decides an issue contrary to the above departmental view, the departmental view shall not be operative in the area falling in the jurisdiction of the relevant High Court. So this was before the Supreme Court ruling, wherein if any High Court rules that section 40A1A is not applicable, then this department circular won't be applicable. Friends, based on this issue, you will find relevant case laws. While we will be discussing this subtopic case laws, this particular issue will get covered, wherein the relevant Supreme Court case law will be discussed in further detail. So friends, this circular was specifically applicable for section 40A1A, and as per section 40A1A, as we have studied that the amount disallowed will be 30% and it is applicable to a resident payee. Moving on to the next provision, which is equalization levy, wherein the equalization levy is applicable where there is an online advertisement services provided by a non-resident. Take for example Google, wherein this service recipient in India is required to pay fees, is required to pay to service provider outside India for the purpose of online advertisement. In such a case, equalization levy, this is a type of tax which is to be paid by the service recipient in India at the rate of 6%, and such levy is as per Finance Act 2016, meaning this is part of Finance Act 2016, meaning it is not part of income tax, it is part of Finance Act 2016, and such a levy is on account of BEPS compliance, or you can say base erosion and profit sharing on the recommendation of BEPS. Short form is BEPS, base erosion and profit sharing. On the recommendations of BEPS, or to be compliant with BEPS, these provisions were introduced wherein the service recipient is supposed to deduct taxes as equalization levy, where online advertisement services are obtained from service provider outside India, from non-resident service provider. And if such 6% equalization levy is not deducted and paid by the service recipient in India, then amount paid will be entirely disallowed as per section 40A1B. The concept of equalization levy, friends, we will learn in detail. I will be covering chapter of non-residents. So we have a separate chapter for equalization levy, wherein the provisions related to equalization levy will be discussed in detail. So here 40A1B, if taxes are not deducted and paid, equalization levy is not deducted and paid by the SSC, by the service recipient in India, then amount won't be allowed as deduction to the SSC. And again, the provisions of taxes should be deducted during the previous year and paid before the filing of return of income is also applicable to this section. On your screen, 40A1B, any consideration paid or payable to a non-resident for a specified service, which is online advertisement, on which equalization levy is deductible under the provisions of Chapter 7 of Finance Act 2016. It has not been intentionally part of Income Tax Act only because of requirement of BEPS. So it is part of Finance Act 2016, and such levy has not been deducted or after deduction has not been paid before the filing of return of income. Proviso that where in respect of any such consideration the equalization levy has been deducted in subsequent year or has been deducted during the previous year but paid after the due date of filing return of income, then such sum shall be allowed as deduction in computing the income of the previous year in which the same has been paid. Again, this provision remains the same as section 40A1 and 40A1A, which we have discussed previously. Now friends, the next provision is related to Reduction of income tax is paid, which is covered under section 40A(2), wherein any income tax paid, surcharge paid, education cess paid, health and education cess paid, penalty paid by the SSC won't be allowed as deduction in the hands of the SSC payer, meaning any taxes paid whether by way of TDS, self-assessment tax, advance tax won't be allowed as deduction only because the same is paid to the government. Accordingly, same won't be allowed as deduction as per section 40A(2). Also, if there is any relief or credit claimed by the SSC as per section 90, wherein any tax is paid outside India and the SSC is eligible for claiming credit of such taxes paid outside India while filing his return of income, then also he won't be allowed any deduction of the same as per section 40A(2), meaning the deduction won't be allowed in the profit and loss account. However, a deduction will be allowed separately while computing the tax liability. So FTC, you can say foreign tax credit, FTC, can be claimed while computing the tax liability of the SSC. The credit of taxes can be claimed which has been paid outside India. However, it cannot be claimed in the profit and loss account of the SSC as per section 40A(2). On your screen, 40A(2), any sum paid on account of the rate or any tax levied on the profits or assessed at a proportion of or otherwise on the basis of any such profit and gains, basically any taxes which is payable, won't be allowed under section 40A(2). Explanation for the removal of doubts. It is hereby declared that for the purpose of this clause, any sum paid on account of any rate or tax levied includes and shall be deemed always to have included any sum eligible for relief under section 90, which is claiming of relief, claiming of FTC foreign tax credit, or section 91. Section 90 or section 91. Section 90 is applicable. The taxes are paid outside India and there is an agreement. There is double taxation avoidance agreement with the source country or resident country. India is a resident country and so source country outside India. There is a double taxation avoidance agreement between the two countries, and section 91 is a unilateral relief provided by Indian government wherein there are no such double taxation avoidance agreement in place. So explanation 1 says taxes have been paid outside India, deduction of the same won't be available to the SSC as per section 40A(2). And explanation 2 is related to section 90A, which is again related to taxes paid outside India and relief provided under section 90A. 40A(2), friends, says any taxes paid, any penalty paid by an SSC won't be allowed as deduction, and it includes the foreign taxes paid, the taxes paid outside India. However, the same will be allowed while computing the FTC paid. Taxes paid outside India can be allowed, will be allowed while computing the tax liability. It won't be allowed in the profit and loss account as per 40A(2). Any sum paid to a state government undertaking. So if any amount is paid to a state government undertaking, that won't be allowed as deduction to the SSC as per section 40A(3). On your screen, cut start, any amount paid by way of royalty, license fee, service fee, privilege fee, service charge, or any other fee or charge by whatever name called, which is levied exclusively on or which is appropriate directly or indirectly from a state government undertaking In such a case, that amount which has been paid to state government undertaking won't be allowed as deduction to the SSC only because the same is going to government. Definition of state government undertaking: it includes a corporation established by or under any act of the state government, a company in which more than 50% of the paid up equity share capital is held by the state government, a company in which more than 50% of the paid up equity share capital is held by an entity referred to in clause 1 and 2 above, whether singly or taken together. So basically, owned by state government, established by or under the act of state government, a company or corporation in which the state government has right to appoint the board of directors or to control the management or policy decisions by virtue of its shareholding or management rights. An authority or board or an institution or body established or constituted by or under any act of central government, any act of state government, or owned or controlled by state government. So friends, 40A to be wherein any amount paid to state government undertaking won't be allowed as deduction to the SSC. 40A3, wherein the salary paid outside India, salary paid to a non-resident by the SSA will be not allowed as deduction, won't be allowed as deduction under section 40A3, where taxes has not been deducted and paid by the SSC. So 40A1 states payment to non-resident will be disallowed, and out of that, if the payment is salary payment to a non-resident or salary payment outside India, then the disallowance will be under section 40A3. Also, if salary is paid to a resident of India, in that case, the disallowance will be under section 40A1A. So, 40A3 is specifically applicable to cases where salary is paid and salary is paid outside India or to a non-resident and taxes haven't been deducted or paid. Any payment which is chargeable under that salaries if it is payable outside India or to a non-resident, and if tax has not been paid thereon or deducted therefrom under TDS provisions. Next is 40A4, payment to employee welfare schemes, wherein it should be payment from employee welfare schemes, wherein any amount which is payable from the provident fund scheme by the employer to the employee, and if taxes are not deducted by the employer, then amount will be disallowed in the hands of the employer. However, one condition being that employer, if it satisfies the income tax officer, if he satisfies that specific arrangements have been made by the employer, then such amount will be allowed to the SSC. Meaning, take an example. Let's take an example wherein employer is required to pay provident fund amount to the employee, fine, and employer, and the payment is made from the provident fund trust of the employer. So, by the way, the trust, the provident fund trust, is a separate entity from the employer company, and the employer company has provided instructions to the trust that so and so amount is required to be paid. For example, 100 rupees is required to be paid to the SSC, and please deduct taxes thereon. Such instructions are provided by the employer SSC to the PF trust, which is again part of employer company only. So internal instruction has already went to the provident fund trust to make the payment of provident fund and deduct applicable taxes thereon. If such instruction is provided, then employer company won't be disallowed the provident fund expenditure. On your screen, 40A4, any amount to a provident or other fund established for the benefit of employees of the SSC would be disallowed to the SSC unless the SSC has made effective arrangements to secure that tax shall be deducted at source from any payments made from the fund which are chargeable to tax under the head salaries. So effective arrangements have been made, meaning in our example, if specific instructions are provided by the employer company to the PF trust to deduct taxes thereon, then it will amount to effective arrangements has been secured by the employer company, and wherein the taxes payable on the provident fund amount is 10% whenever the taxes are liable to be deducted. The TDS amount on provident fund payable from the trust or by the PF commissioner, maybe the taxes which are liable to be deducted are at the rate of 10%, and if such 10% is not deducted by the SSC employer, or in this case PF trust, then amount of provident fund paid would be disallowed in the hands of employer company as per section 40A4. 40A5, this is related to taxes paid on non-monetary perquisite by the employer on behalf of the employee will be disallowed in the hands of the employee, will be disallowed in the hands of the employer, meaning this we have discussed in detail earlier also, wherein non-monetary perquisite such as accommodation, car perquisite, non-monetary perquisite is provided by the employer to the employee, and the taxes which are liable to be paid by the employee are paid by the employer on behalf of the SSC. In such a case, such a tax liability will be exempt in the hands of the employee under section 1010CC. However, such taxes paid will be disallowed in the hands of the employer. Only simple thing being, government will satisfy their quota of taxes recoverable either from employee or employer. Taxes is anyhow supposed to be going to government. If it is not through the employee, it will go through the employer. So since employee is specifically exempt under section 1010CC, and if there is no cap on the deduction which will be eligible to the employer, then this will be a sort of double deduction to the SSC, wherein an employee is claiming an exemption and the employer is also claiming deduction of taxes paid on behalf of the employee. So only to keep a cap on double deduction, such a deduction won't be allowed to the employer under section 40A5. So on your screen, tax paid on perquisite on behalf of the employees is not deductible. Any tax actually paid by the employer referred to in clause 1010CC won't be allowed as deduction to the SSC employer under section 40A5. Now friends, the next topic is section 40B, which is related to payment made by firm or LLP to its partners. So friends, any payment made by a firm or LLP to a partner in the form of remuneration, which will include salary, bonus, commission, any such amount which is paid by firm or LLP to its partner in the form of remuneration or interest will be disallowed based on specific circumstances, wherein first is any amount paid to a non-working partner any remuneration paid to a non-working partner will be disallowed in the hands of the firm and accordingly will be subject to tax in the hands of the firm. And the non-working partner is a partner who is not actively engaged in the affairs of the partnership firm. So if out of say two partners, one partner is actively handling the affairs of the firm and the second partner has only contributed certain part of the capital to the firm and is not actively engaged in the affairs of the firm, then partner B will be non-working partner and partner A, who is actively engaged in the affairs of the firm, will be working partner. So any remuneration, not interest won't be included. Any remuneration which is salary, bonus, commission, which is paid to a non-working partner, in our example partner B, then it will be disallowed in the hands of the firm. Second, any remuneration or interest paid to a working partner which is not as per partnership deed. Any such amount which is not as per the partnership deed and it is paid to a working partner, then it will be disallowed. Also, any amount before the partnership deed was executed, any amount to a working partner before the partnership deed was executed will be disallowed in the hands of the firm. Also, such remuneration which is even authorized by partnership deed, it is allowed, cut start, it is allowed up to a cap. For example, the cap applicable for the remuneration payable by the firm is of the book profits up to 3 lakhs. Of the book profits, the deduction available is 1,50,000 or 90% of the book profit, whichever is higher, and for the amount subsequent to 3 lakhs, amount of deduction available is 60% of the book profit. And the book profit for the purpose of these provisions is the profit appearing in the profit and loss account of the firm, net profit, on which the amount added to the net profit is the remuneration paid to the partners by the firm. So any remuneration paid by the firm as per the books of accounts will be added back to the net profit, and whatever is the amount derived is the book profit for the purpose of computation of allowable deduction to the firm. So again, amount paid, remuneration paid, not interest, remuneration paid to non-working partner is disallowed. Remuneration or interest paid to any partner, remuneration to working partner, interest paid to any partner, if it is not as per partnership deed, then it will be disallowed. Third point, any payment before the partnership deed is disallowed. Fourth, remuneration paid as per the partnership deed. However, if it is paid above a certain limit, it won't be disallowed. Limit is up to 3 lakhs of book profit, 150,000 or 90% of the book profits, whichever is higher is the deduction allowed. And above 3 lakh book profit, 60% of the book profit is allowed as deduction to the firm. And there is also a cap on interest deduction, which the cap is anything above 12% per annum as interest paid to the partner will be disallowed in the hands of the firm. On your screen, firm accessible as such or LLP. Friends, you might be aware that firm and partner are separate entity. So any amount which has already been taxed in the hands of firm won't be again taxable in the hands of the partner. Accordingly, share of profit received by the partner is exempt under section 10 since it has already been taxed in the hands of firm or LLP, because the firm and partner are two different persons. Accordingly, if any amount is already taxed in the hands of one person, it won't be again taxable in the hands of another person. And here we are not talking about share of profit. Here we are talking about remuneration paid to the partner. Remuneration is salary, bonus, commission, interest, which is paid by the firm to the partner. Anything which is disallowed in the hands of the firm under section 40B will be taxable in the hands of firm, and accordingly it won't again be taxable in the hands of the partner. Anything which is allowed as deduction to the firm will be taxable in the hands of the partner. 40B, in the case of any firm assessable as such, it includes LLP as well. Remuneration to a non-working partner will be disallowed. Remuneration to any non-working partner, any payment of salary, bonus, commission or remuneration by whatever name called hereinafter referred to as remuneration. So remuneration includes salary, bonus, commission, any payment to any partner who is not a working partner. So payment of salary, bonus, commission to a non-working partner will be disallowed to the firm. Clause 2. Remuneration to a working partner not authorized by partnership deed. Any payment of remuneration, which is salary, bonus, commission, to any partner who is a working partner, or of interest to any partner, which includes non-working partner, which in either case is not authorized by or not in accordance with the terms of the partnership deed. So such payment, if not in accordance with partnership deed, won't be allowed as deduction to the firm. Now, remuneration will be salary, bonus, commission paid to working partner and interest paid to all the partners including non-working partner. If it is not as per partnership deed, then it will be disallowed. Clause 3. Remuneration or interest paid to a partner authorized by deed but relates to an earlier period, it will be disallowed. Any payment of remuneration to any partner who is a working partner or interest to any partner, which in either case is authorized by and is in accordance with the terms of the partnership deed, but which relates to any period falling prior to the date of partnership deed. For example, there may be a case wherein the partnership firm has started services and also there has been payment of remuneration or interest to the partner. However, the partnership firm took time in finalizing the partnership deed and it came into existence only after 1 year. So for 1 year there were payment of remuneration to the partners and partnership deed came into existence only after 1 year. So any payment before the period of partnership deed will be disallowed as per provisions of 40B3. So payment is authorized but relates to prior period for which such payment was not authorized or not in accordance with any earlier partnership deed. So however that the period of authorization for such payment by any earlier partnership deed does not cover any period prior to the date of such earlier partnership deed, meaning the period which is period earlier than partnership deed came into existence won't be allowed as deduction to the SSC. Interest to any partner in excess of 12% per annum, as we have discussed. Anything in excess of 12% per annum will be disallowed, and this is coming as per provisions of clause 4, 40B4. Any payment of interest to any partner which is authorized and in accordance with partnership deed and relates to any period falling after the partnership deed insofar as such amount exceeds the amount calculated at the rate of 12% interest per annum. Anything in exceeding of 12% will be disallowed. Again, the amount should be authorized by partnership deed and it is paid to any partner. So friends, clause 1 related to non-working partner specifies only remuneration, which is salary, bonus, commission, and for interest it is always any partner, which is working partner as well as non-working partner. Clause 5 states the cap on the remuneration which should be payable by the firm. Anything above than the limit specified as per 40b(5) will be disallowed in the hands of the firm. Any payment of remuneration to any partner who is a working partner, which is authorized and in accordance with the partnership deed and relates to the period falling after the partnership deed, in so far as the amount of such payment to all the partners during the previous year exceeds the aggregate amount as herein under. So the amount is exceeding the below limit on the first 3 lakhs of book profit, or in case if there is a loss, then 1,50,000 or 90% of book profit, whichever is higher, is the quantum of deduction. On the balance, 60% of the book profit is the amount of deduction which is allowed to the to the firm. So this was the cap. Meaning of book profit. Explanation 3. Book profit means the net profit as shown in profit and loss account as increased by the aggregate amount of the remuneration paid or payable. Increased by the aggregate amount of remuneration paid or payable by the firm to the partners. This is book profit for the purpose of computation of quantum of deduction as per section 40b(5). Obviously, if such amount has been deducted while computing net profit. So, if any remuneration paid to the partners, if it is deducted in the profit and loss account, the same should be added back for the purpose of computation of book profit. Meaning of working partner, friends, we have already discussed. Explanation 4. Working partner means an individual is actively engaged in conducting the affairs of the business or profession of the firm of which he is a partner. Now friends, partner in a firm in a representative capacity. So the points that we have discussed earlier were related to a partner who is representing in his individual capacity. What if the partner is representing any other person? For example, a karta of a HUF. If the karta is representing in the capacity of HUF, then explanation 1 and explanation 2 will come into play, wherein the provisions, again I will discuss the provisions that we have discussed earlier are related to a partner which is acting in his individual capacity, which is acting in his as an individual person. What if the partner is a karta of a HUF and is representing the HUF as a partner? So in those cases, if interest is paid by the firm to such a representative SSC, to such a representative partner. So as a representative partner, if such a partner is receiving any interest amount, then whether provisions of section 40b is applicable or not is the issue which has been explained by explanation 1 and 2 of section 40b, wherein such karta will be termed as partner in a representative capacity and the person to whom he is representing will be termed as person so represented. So in our example, karta will be partner in a representative capacity, and HUF will be person so represented. To further clarify this point, let's take an example wherein loan is provided by Karta. Loan is provided by Mr. A in his individual capacity to the firm, let's say 1 lakh, and another loan is provided by HUF as a partner to the firm. So two loans are provided. Mr. A is providing in his individual capacity a loan to the firm, and HUF is providing a loan to the firm as a partner. So any interest paid by the firm to Mr. A in an individual capacity, if yes, then 40B won't be applicable, only because Mr. A hasn't provided loan in the capacity of Karta, but he has provided loan in his individual capacity. He is not representing the HUF in this regard. Accordingly, any interest paid by the firm won't be disallowed under section 40B. 40B won't be applicable to Mr. A. And any interest paid by the firm to the HUF, 40B will be applicable as firm is paying interest to a partner, which is HUF in this case. And also there will be a situation wherein partner is representing in his individual capacity, however he is receiving the interest amount. He is only receiving the interest amount on behalf of HUF. So again an example, if the partner, that is Mr. A, is a partner in his individual capacity, and his HUF, which is not a partner, is receiving interest from the firm, then any interest paid by the firm to the HUF won't be applicable for section 40B. The provisions of section 40B won't be applicable wherein interest is paid to an HUF. It's only that the amount is received by Mr. A in his individual capacity. The amount is received by Mr. A, only it to be given to HUF. So in such a scenario as well, 40B won't be applicable. So in a nutshell, section 40B is applicable only to partner of the firm if Mr. A in his individual capacity a partner, any interest received by Mr. A will be taxable, will be subject to tax, will be subject to the provisions of section 40B. If the interest is received by HUF as a partner of the firm, then provisions of section 40B will be applicable to HUF as well. So for the applicability of section 40B, the person, it could be an individual person or in the form of HUF. If they are partners, then section 40B will be applicable. If they are not partners, then 40B won't be applicable. On your screen, explanation 1 to section 40B, where an individual is a partner in a firm on behalf or for the benefit of any other person. Such partner and the other person being hereinafter referred to as partner in a representative capacity and partner so represented. In our example, partner in a representative capacity was Mr. A and partner so represented was HUF. So here the individual is acting in a representative capacity. Mr. A is acting on behalf of HUF. HUF is the partner, Mr. A is not the partner. Interest paid by the firm to Mr. A, to such individual, otherwise than as a partner in a representative capacity. Otherwise than as a partner, he is not a partner, then the same shall not be taken into account for the purpose of this clause. Since he is not a partner, 40B won't be applicable. Part 2. Interest paid by the firm to such individual as partner in a representative capacity, and interest paid by the firm to the person so represented shall be taken into account for the purpose of this clause. Meaning, any amount paid by the firm to the partner will be eligible for section 40B. Here in this case, part 2, the amount has been paid through Mr. A to HUF. Accordingly, provisions of 40B will be applicable. Explanation 2. Where an individual is a partner in a firm, otherwise than as a partner in a representative capacity, meaning he is a normal partner, he is representing in an individual capacity. In our example, Mr. A, interest paid by the firm to such individual. Interest paid by the firm to such individual shall not be taken into account for the purpose of this clause if such interest is received by him on behalf or for the benefit of any other person. So any amount received by Mr. A as a partner, 40B is applicable if any amount is received for the benefit of any other person. If any amount is received by Mr. A for the benefit of any other person, in an example, Mr. A is receiving on behalf of HUF. HUF is not the partner, Mr. A is the partner. If any amount received by Mr. A for the benefit of HUF, then as per explanation 2 to section 40B, nothing will be taxable in the hands of Mr. A because amount is received by Mr. A not in the individual capacity as partner, but it is only received for the benefit of HUF. This amount is paid to HUF and not Mr. A. It is only the amount is paid through Mr. A to HUF. So since HUF is not the partner, nothing will be taxable. Nothing will be considered for 40B. If amount would have been paid to a partner, then it is eligible for section 40B. So friends, to recap, under section 40B, we have studied that any payment which will be remuneration, salary, bonus, commission or interest paid by the firm to the partner, it will be allowed as deduction to the firm, or it will be disallowed in the hands of the firm or LLP subject to certain conditions. If remuneration to non-working partner is disallowed in the hands of the firm, remuneration to working partner, if not authorized by partnership deed, is disallowed. Remuneration paid before the partnership deed came into existence is disallowed. Interest in excess of 12% is disallowed. Remuneration paid by the firm to the partner, if it is over and above the limit specified, then it is disallowed. The limit to be considered is up to 3 lakhs or up to 3 lakhs of the book profit or loss, 1,50,000 or 90% of the book profit, whichever is higher, and above 3 lakhs, 60% of the book profit will be allowed as deduction. Book profit is nothing but net profit or loss as per profit and loss account of the firm, in which any amount claimed as deduction for which remuneration is paid by the firm to the partner will be added back to the net profit, and accordingly book profit will be derived. Meaning of working partner, which is actively engaged in conducting the affairs of the business or profession of the firm. Partner in a representative capacity, meaning the crux of the situation is, the crux of the provision is any amount paid as a partner by the firm will be applicable for section 40B, whether the partner is in his individual capacity or he is representing HUF or any other person. Now friends, section 40BA, the provisions are similar to firm and a partner. Similarly, the provisions are applicable to member of association of persons and AOP. So partner will be member and firm will be association of persons. and similar provisions which are applicable to firm will be applicable to association of persons or body of individuals as well. On your screen, in the case of an association of persons or body of individuals other than a company or cooperative society or society registered under Society Registration Act or under any other law corresponding to the act, in these cases any payment of interest, salary, bonus, commission or remuneration, or whatever named call made by such AOP to a member will be disallowed to AOP. So friends, explanation 1 to section 40BA says that any interest paid by AOP by BOI to its member which is exceeding to the interest which has been paid by a member will be disallowed. So anything in excess of interest paid which is over and above the interest paid by the member, anything in excess of interest paid by the member to the firm, to the BOP, to the AOP or BOI will be disallowed. So let's say AOP is paying to its member 100% interest, 100 rupees interest, and member is paying to AOP 80 rupees interest. So 20 rupees interest, which is excess amount paid by AOP to its member, will be disallowed as per explanation 1 to section 40BA. And explanation 2 and 3 are similar to the provisions which we have discussed in the case of firm, in the case of a partner which is acting in the representative capacity, wherein the crux of the provision is any interest paid by AOP or BOI to its member will be eligible for 40BA. So if any member is representing in his individual capacity, 40BA will be applicable. If any member is representing any other person, then any payment to such other person will be eligible for section 40BA. On your screen, explanation 1, the interest is paid by AOP or BOI to any member thereof who has also paid interest to AOP or BOI. The amount of interest to be disallowed under this clause shall be limited to the amount by which amount of interest exceeds the payment of interest by the member to the association or person or body of individuals. So in our example we took 100 minus 80, so 20 rupees was disallowed. Similarly in explanation 1, anything exceeding the payment of interest, the portion which is highlighted on your screen, the amount which exceeds, anything which exceeds will be disallowed in the hands of AOP or BOI. Explanation 2 and explanation 3 is nothing but member acting in a representative capacity, wherein the provisions are similar to the provisions that we have discussed under explanation 1 and 2 of section 40B, and the crux of the provision will be that amount is paid, if any amount is paid by AOP to its member will be eligible to 40BA. Member may be in his individual capacity, member may be even a HUF you can say. So similar provisions, you can read it at your convenience, explanation 2 and explanation 3. So friends, this concludes section 40A provisions and 40B provisions, wherein amount will be disallowed in the hands of the SSC if certain conditions are met, and inadmissible deduction part is covered under section 40 small a, 40A, 40B, 40BA. So friends, now let's solve certain illustration which is related to the provisions of section 40A and 40B, which is inadmissible deductions. AAA Limited credited the following amount to the account of resident payee in the month of March 2020 without deduction of tax at source. So here amount is paid to resident payee and there is no deduction of tax in the relevant previous year, which is 1920. So relevant section which is applicable is 40A 1A. What would be the consequence? Resident without deduction. What would be the consequence of non-deduction of tax at source by AAA Limited on these amounts during previous year 1920, assuming that resident payees in all the cases mentioned above have not paid the tax, if any, which are required to be deducted by AAA Limited. So resident payees have not paid the tax. So the benefit won't be available to the SSC payer, in which if the amount would have been paid by resident payee, then it would have been assumed that taxes are deducted and paid by the payer. However, here the resident payee has not paid any tax. Accordingly, the expenditure won't be allowed as deduction to the SSC payer. The particulars of payment: salary to its employees. So payment to a resident employees of 9 lakhs, director's remuneration of 35,000. Would your answer be different? Would your answer change if AAA Limited has deducted tax on director's remuneration in May 2020 at the time of payment and remitted the same in July 2020? So your director's remuneration in this example, taxes have been deducted in the previous year 1920 and payment has been made in April 2020. And the second situation has been asked, wherein if taxes were deducted in the next previous year, what will be the consequences? So friends, in this illustration you can see there are two payments. First is salary payment to the resident employee and second is director's remuneration. Both the payments are to resident and taxes are not deducted and paid to the government of India. So as per section 192, which is related to salary payment, TDS is liable to be deducted at the time of payment. So in the case of salary, since the payment is made, the salary is credited and paid in March 2020. Accordingly, the amount, since the amount has been credited and paid in March 2020, amount will be assumed to be deducted on in the previous year 1920. I will repeat it again. Salary, TDS on salary is liable to be paid at the time of payment, and here the payment of salary has been made in March 2020. Accordingly, taxes have been deducted in previous year 1920. Since the entry, since the payment has been made in March 2020, accordingly it will be assumed that tax has been deducted in March 2020. And the second payment, director's remuneration, TDS, is generally liable to be deducted at the time of payment or paid or payable, whichever is earlier. Amount paid or payable, whichever is earlier, TDS is liable to be deducted. So in the case of director's remuneration, you can see amount is credited in March 2020. Fine. So it is credited in the books of accounts in March 2020. Accordingly, the amount is deducted in financial year 1920. So both of these amounts have been deducted in financial year in previous year 1920, and accordingly if taxes are paid before the filing of return of income of the SSC, then they will be allowed as deduction. 100% of the amount will be allowed as deduction in the books of accounts to the SSC. Else, if payment is not made, which is nothing mentioned in this question, in the question there is mentioned that taxes are not paid. Accordingly, 30% of the amount of the expenditure paid, 30% of the salary, 30% of the director's remuneration will be disallowed in the hands of the SSC as per section 40A 1A, and the amount accordingly will be 9,35,000, 9,35,000. So we can see over here the consequence. There are two subparts to it. What would be the consequence of non-deduction of tax at source by A Limited? So the first part is, since the amount has been credited in the books of accounts, salary paid and directors remuneration paid will be disallowed to the extent of 30%, meaning 70% will be allowed in previous year 1920 and 30% will be allowed in the year of payment by the SSC, and the amount has been deducted in the previous year 1920 as salary was paid in March 2020. TDS is liable to be deducted on paid basis, and director's remuneration, TDS on director's remuneration, TDS will be deducted on paid or payable basis, whichever is earlier. Since the amount is paid, since the amount is credited in March 2020, accordingly, it will be assumed that taxes are deducted in, accordingly taxes are deducted in financial year 1920. So 70% will be allowed. So 70% will be allowed to the SSC in previous year 1920, and 30% will be allowed in the succeeding previous year or in the previous year in which the payment of taxes have been made. So friends, 30% of 9,35,000, 2,80,500 is the amount which will be disallowed in the hands of the SSC as per section. Amount disallowed as per section 40A 1A. This is part 1. And also you can mention that since resident payee has not paid the taxes, accordingly the resident payer, accordingly Triple A Limited, won't be eligible for deduction of the expenditure, deduction of salary and director's remuneration. If the resident payee had made the payment, or if they are going to make the payment at the time of filing the return of income, then the situation will be different. However, here in the question it has been specifically mentioned that resident payee has not paid the taxes. Accordingly, the disallowance under section 40A1A will apply to AAA Limited, and the disallowance is up to 30%. Now this second situation, wherein would your answer change if AAA Limited has deducted tax on director's remuneration in May 2020 at the time of payment and remitted the same in July 2020? So part 2, director's remuneration deducted and paid in previous year 2021, which is in the next previous year. So here, since the deduction is not in the relevant previous year, this allowance will continue to stand. So friends, the amount of 35,000 won't be allowed in the relevant previous year, that is 1920. Nothing will be allowed, not even 70% will be allowed to the SSC. The amount that will be disallowed will be entire amount for 1920, and 35,000 into 30%. 35,000 into 30%. This will be allowed in the next previous year. So 10,500, which is 35,000 director's remuneration into 30%. This portion won't be allowed in the previous year. I mean, this amount of portion won't be disallowed. Nothing will be allowed in 1920, everything will be allowed in 2021. So in our earlier example, 2,80,500 was the amount which is cumulative of director's remuneration. Out of this, 2,80,500 minus 10,500, which is this amount, only that portion will be disallowed. To put it differently, the thing will be 70%, which was allowed to the SSC in previous year 1920 on account of director's remuneration won't be allowed in previous year 1920 as taxes are deducted in May 2020. Accordingly, since taxes are deducted in previous year 2021, expenditure will be allowed in the subsequent previous year only in the previous year 2020. Accordingly, I will put it here. Director's remuneration will be considered entirely, that is 100%, will be considered entirely in previous year 2021, and nothing nothing will be considered in previous year 1920. So in part 1, at least 70% of the amount, 70% of 35,000 was eligible for deduction in the hands of AAA Limited. Now in the second part, since the amount is deducted, in the previous year 2021, even that 70 portion won't be allowed as deduction in 1920. Entirely the 35,000 amount will be allowed in assessment year 2021, provided taxes are also paid in the previous year 2021. So friends, again coming part to the deduction part, it's very important that amount should be deducted in the relevant previous year. If the same has been paid before the due date of filing of return of income, then it will be allowed as deduction entirely in the hands of the SSC. If it has not been paid, then it will be allowed as deduction in the succeeding previous year in which the taxes amount has been paid. And in our scenario, in this case, since there was no tax reduction, accordingly as per section 40A 1A, 30% of the amount was disallowed in the form of salary and director's remuneration. And in the part 2, since director's remuneration, even amount was not deducted, I mean the director's remuneration was credited in the books of accounts only in previous year 2021. Accordingly, 35,000 deduction won't be considered in 1920. 35,000 deduction will be considered in 2021. Now friends, the next illustration. During the previous year 1920, the following payments expenditure were made incurred by Mr. A, resident individual, whose turnover during the year was 80 lakhs. This limit will be useful to determine whether TDS is actually required to be deducted by an individual or not. If the turnover exceeds 100 lakhs, then TDS is required to be deducted in certain cases by the individual payer. Commission of 20,000 was paid to Mr. X on 10th of July 2019 without deduction of tax at source. So here commission payment has been made by Mr. X. However, since the audit limit is not applicable to the SSC, meaning the turnover of the SSC is not exceeding 100 lakhs, accordingly TDS provisions won't be applicable to Mr. A, and no tax was required to be deducted by Mr. A, and accordingly nothing will be disallowed under section 40A 1A. Next is interest of 37,000 paid to ABC and Company, resident partnership firm, without deduction of tax at source. So here interest of 37,000 was paid to SSC. Here also, since the turnover limit is not exceeding 100 lakhs, since the turnover limit is not exceeding 100 lakhs, accordingly individual won't be liable to deduct any taxes, and accordingly nothing will be disallowed under section 41A. 2 lakh was paid as salary to resident individual without deduction of tax at source. Here 30% amount will be disallowed in the hands of the SSC, since the turnover limit, the provisions of tax audit limit won't be applicable to Mr. A in this case. In the provisions of section 192, there is no such criteria. However, for commission and for interest, there is such a criteria. Briefly discuss whether any disallowance arises under the provisions of 41A, assuming that the payee has not paid any tax. So, as we have discussed, that commission and interest nothing will be disallowed, and for salary 2 lakh into 30%, which is 60,000, will be disallowed in the hands of Mr. A. Next is a firm assessed as such has paid 10 lakhs as remuneration to its partners for the previous year 1920 in accordance with its partnership deed. So the amount is as per the partnership deed. Remuneration is paid to its partners. There is no bifurcation as such for working partner or non-working partner. Nothing has been mentioned. So we will assume that it is for working partner. So 10 lakh has been paid and book profit is already given, which is 12 lakhs. What is the remuneration allowable as deduction? On a screen, here we have to calculate the amount which is disallowed as per section 40A5, as per section 40B5. What is the remuneration allowable as deduction? So first you will have to calculate the amount which is disallowed. Amount disallowed as per section 40B5. So here, friends, the limit is 3 lakh of the book profit, 3 lakh of up to 3 lakhs of the book profit or loss. Here we have book profit. Accordingly, up to 3 lakhs of the book profit, amount is 1,50,000 or 90%. 90% of the book profit. So in this case, 1,50,000 or 90% of the book profit, meaning 90% of 3 lakhs, which is nothing but 2,70,000, and we have to consider whichever is higher. Accordingly, for first part we will get 2,70,000 as the amount. This is the first part. Now the second part is for the remaining book profit, which is 12 lakhs minus 3 lakhs. Remaining book profit, on this 60% of the book profit is allowed as deduction, which will be 12 lakhs minus 3 lakhs is nothing but 9 lakhs. 9 lakh into 60%, 5,40,000 will be allowed as deduction to the SSC. So ideally we should be saying over here 2,70,000 plus 5,40,000. So amount allowed is 2,70,000 plus 5,40,000, which is nothing but 8,10,000. This is the amount which will be allowed to the firm out of total payment of 12 lakhs. So amount allowed is 8 lakh and amount disallowed as per 40B5 is nothing but 12 lakhs minus 8.10 lakhs, which is nothing but 3,90,000 is the amount which will be disallowed, and amount allowed is 2,70,000 and 5,40,000 is 8,10,000. Now friends, the next illustration, which will be the last illustration for section 40A on your screen. Laser Gaze, a partnership firm consisting of two partners, reports a net profit of 10 lakhs, which is before deduction of the following items. First, interest on capital at 14% per annum. As per the deed of partnership, the amount of capital eligible for interest is 4,50,000. So, as per 40A, the interest deduction allowed is 12% per annum. So, here it has been mentioned as 14%. Remaining 2% will be disallowed in the hands of the firm, and it will be added back to the net profit. Salary of 15,000 each per month. Salary of 15,000 each per month, which is to both the employees equally. So 15,000 each. Payable to two working partners of the firm as authorized by the deed of partnership. We will have to compute book profits, and then what is the eligible amount of deduction under section 40B, we will have to trace out. Depreciation on plant and machinery under section 32 computed at 1 lakh. So the net profit of 10 lakhs is before giving deduction of interest, salary and depreciation. So for computing the book profit, we will have to deduct depreciation, we will have to deduct interest at the rate 12%, which is allowed as per 40B, and thereafter we will obtain book profits, and we can then compute amount of deduction available as per section 40B for remuneration paid to working partners. Based on above information, compute book profit of the firm and allowable working partner salary for the assessment year 2021 as per section 40B. So there are two requirements. First, to compute the book profit. Second, allowable working partner salary. So this will be part of the process only, in which we will be first computing the book profit, and then the amount of deduction available as per section 40B, we can trace it out. So on your screen, first let's compute the book profit. So computation of book profit of Laser Gaze for assessment year 2021. Net profit is nothing but 10 lakhs. Then we will have to deduct depreciation under section 32, which has been already computed, which is 1 lakhs. 1 lakh. Then less interest on capital to partner. Here the interest to be calculated is as per the partner or not. That is on which the question is silent on. Either we can assume it, put a note saying that this is the total interest paid by the firm, and accordingly 12% per annum is the total interest, which is inclusive of both the partners. Or if it is each partners, then we will have to deduct additional interest of 12% for one partner and 12% for another partner. So friends, based on, we can assume that it is for one partner. I mean, it is the total interest is 12% for both the partners, and we can continue and put a note over here. Interest on capital to partners, assuming this is the total interest paid to both the partners, and the overall limit cannot exceed 12% at the rate of 12%. Amount is 4,50,000 into 12%, which is nothing but 54,000. This is to be deducted. Even 1 lakh is to be deducted. And for computing salary and for computing book profit, for the purpose of computation of book profit, the salary won't be included, won't be part of the net profit accordingly. there is no effect for the purpose of calculation of book profit of the salary. So book profits is nothing but 10 lakh minus 1 lakh, 9 lakh and 54,000, which will be 46,000. So 8 lakh 46,000 is the book profit. Let's reconfirm these ones. 9 lakh minus 54,000 is nothing but 8 lakh 46,000. Fine. And after computing, so here book profit of laser gaze, this is the first part of the answer. Book profits of laser gaze for assessment year 2021 is nothing but 8,46,000. Now the second part will be allowable salary as per section 40B. So here first slab, if you see, first part for computing the deduction allowable for of salary paid to working partner is 90% of the book profits or 1,50,000, whichever is higher. For profits up to 3 lakhs, it is nothing but 1,50,000 or 90% of book profit, whichever is higher. So it is 2,70,000. 90% of 3 lakhs is 2,70,000, and B exceeding 3 lakhs is nothing but 8,46,000 minus 3 lakhs. It is nothing but 5,46,000. That will be into 30% of the book profits, 60% of the book profits, which should be into 60%, 327,600. 327,600. So allowable salary as per section 40B is nothing but 2,70,000 plus 3,27,600, 5,97,600. This is the allowable salary, whereas salary paid is nothing but 15,000 per month per employee per partner. So salary paid is nothing but 15,000 into 12 per month into 2, which is 30,000 into 12, which is nothing but 3,60,000. 15,000 into 12, 3,60,000. So excess, which is 5,97,600 minus 3,60,000, which will be 2,37,600, will be disallowed in the hands of the company. No, not disallowed. Actually, the salary paid is only 3,60,000 and allowable deduction was 5,97,000. So the allowable salary or the actual deduction will be the entire amount. Actual deduction is entire amount, which is 3,60,000. And if they are specifically asked for allowable expenditure, allowable salary as per section 40B, so this is the amount, 5,97,600. And you need to mention that there will be no bar or there will be no cap in this case, because the actual salary paid to the employees is only 3,60,000. This ends the solution, and friends, this concludes the part of section 40A, small a, section 40A, which is inadmissible deductions. Thank you.